Hassel here, co-host of the Nerdy Man Room Show. We proudly present to you Man Room Shorts. Your discretion is advised.
But I did end up picking up like 7 books, and I know you had all of them. So, um, how about I tell you what 7 I got, and then whichever ones that you, because I know there's many as there was, you might not have been able to read them all in that time frame. Because
Now, I'll be
I struggle to get
honest.
through these 7, even though they're short. I was like, crap, because my work week has been crazy. I was like, oh crap, last night I was like, I got 4 of those left to read, so I read them real quickly before I went to
Uh,
bed. But let's go. I've got them sitting here, so let's see what I've got, and then we'll see what you looked at, and we can compare and discuss those. But I got. I ended up with Dark Crisis from DC,
I got.
Avengers, Eternals, X-Men, Judgment Day. Yep. Spiderman and Venom from Marvel. All right, we're on the same page. I got the Street Fighter Masters. Now this was the easiest read, and this was the last one I read last night because there's actually no words in it. It's a
I
silent
have
story.
that.
So
That's in my.
this is the one I fell asleep reading and then woke up and finished because I didn't have to read anything. I just fell asleep looking at the page. uh, I did pick up the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This was actually a pretty good one.
That was actually very good.
What else did I grab? Doctor Who, which is about the fugitive doctor. And then Valiant 2022 preview book. Um, I will say, for sake of time, there's not much to talk about. The Street Fighter is just a bonker
No,
story. It was just a flip through and nice artwork. It was just, and it was a neat little, hey, it's a silent story, but there wasn't much substance to it other than that.
no. It's cool. I mean, 'cause you got to see the human side of Blanca and what he
Yeah,
Harvard still or whatever. The first thing I did when I got mine was like, I mean, I had everything, and God bless Kev, he's like, here. And I was like overwhelmed when I come home. So the
yeah,
first thing I did is I set my stacks down and I broke them down into stacks. So I put my mainstream together. Then I got you semi-mainstream, like your Valiant and your Ninja Turtles.
yeah,
Then, there's a couple of titles that were horror related, actually fairly adult horror that looked pretty cool. Then I took, you know, these 4 titles here: Equilibrium, Promos, Barbaric, and the Electric Black. All of these had some really, really cool art to me, and for independent books, they looked to be next level. Then like your Street Fighter and that fell into my stack with I guess your mainstream like Stranger Things, Walking Dead, Doctor Who, Buffy, Red Sonja, Street Fighter. But and then you got a whole section that's dedicated to children, young children.
yeah.
That was the biggest stack. And then you had your diversity titles. Marvel did voices.
Yeah,
Um,
I didn't get to pick that one up. I wanted to grab that one, but I did not.
DC done a book called Galaxy.
I don't remember seeing that
Um,
one.
well, yeah, it's basically about this alien that is a female. She comes to Earth and poses as a male. And I'm guessing she's in love. What brief story you get in there? She's in love with her best friend, which is another male. But I mean, it's kind of adult oriented because he actually calls, when he sees her in her true form at a party, he's all enamored with her, and she's there with her best friend, which is another other best friend, which is the female, and apparently lesbian. And he's all drawn to her, but she don't want to say she's actually that guy.
Yeah,
And then he's like talking shit about the
that's
guy calling
interesting.
him a pussy. So I mean, they went that route there. Then you got enemies, and I will always be like this. So you had your diversity line there and then you had just like this stack here of just really cool independent books. I mean, that was a great deal. If you were an independent creator, this was the time. There were some pretty cool covers to some of this stuff.
Yeah, I saw a lot of them. I just like again we were limited to what we grabbed, so I didn't grab any of them. The only thing that we debated on, or that my son debated on, because he really wanted to grab the Sonic one because he loved the Sonic movies and stuff, but it was like, I want this. I want the Ninja Turtles in this one more, and I think he ended up with Ninja Turtles and Dark Crisis.
Okay.
But
The
yeah,
Ninja Turtles was really cool.
the Ninja Turtles, because when I first started reading it, I was like, why are they calling them by their own name with the weapons they have and stuff? And then you realize after you read it, it's like, because you get Jenica, which is the new fifth turtle or whatever. Then I was like, what is going on? You realize, oh, you're in a different dimension or something.
Yeah.
You're in a multiverse world. Because then they go back and show you the original story, and they basically took that original story from the old school Ninja Turtles and rewrote it almost word for word, except for what needed to change. Like, oh, this person
Yeah.
has this weapon. I was like, that's actually really neat now that I read the two of them back, because I was so confused until the last page of the first story.
Yeah. Well, they all had that last Ronin look to them and
Yeah.
vibe, which looked really cool. Um, does she typically always look Frankensteinish in the other books? I don't
I
follow
don't know.
that.
I honestly don't buy a lot of Ninja Turtle books.
She had
I
that
bought
Frankenstein look with the electric eyes and everything, and I was like, this is kind of cool. It was like a Watcher vibe Ninja Turtle deal. I mean,
yeah. I love how they showed the original book and then how it compared to those scenes compared to the original book scenes.
it's enough to make me as a fan, say, hey, I might want to pick up, 6 issues of this, give it a chance to see
Yeah.
where it goes, which is the whole goal of Comic Book Day. I mean, I want
Yeah.
to hope something piques your interest. And you pick up 7 titles like you guys did. If only one of them piques your interest, it gets you back. That's what the goal is, and that's great.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of it. My favorite of all of them, personally, was the Spider-Man Venom book.
That one was pretty good. I like how that's going, and it looks like it's setting up for what they're doing now with Amazing Spider-Man. I'm a little lost on what's going on in Venom just because I don't read it, but it was an easy. Easy to read and understand that story. It's just like, okay, what does this?
Now,
How does this relate to what's going on in the books right now?
the only thing I worry about with Venom, I think there's too many symbiotes. You can take away what makes one special by being
Yeah,
too many. And to me, with Venom right now, I mean, I get that you see, because I didn't get to read The King in Black. That's one I want to go back and read is, the absolute carnage into King in Black and all that stuff. I missed a lot of that. So I do want to go back into that. So, but I just feel like I get it. You're trying to make Eddie Brock the null of, the symbiotes right now, and his actual symbiotes with Dylan and his son. But I'm not real big on the symbiotes being the Captain Marvel type deal with the young kid. Because
I
there's a version of Carnage now with young Harry Osborn's son,
yeah,
little Normie. I was my biggest pull away of all of it is I really, really liked the Ben Riley and Madeline Pryor deal at the very
that
end
was
of
the best part of the
Spider-Man.
entire thing.
Like them two could really, and it makes you think: is she why he hasn't been able to see his face? Really, has she been messing with his head,
I don't
or is
know
she
that.
promising to fix him?
I would assume it'd be the promise and the fix and and I still haven't read Amazing Spider-Man 93, which showed how he fully got to that point. But everything up to that point, he's the Beyond Corporation was screwing with his head, and they were erasing his memories, and they were erasing more than they were erasing more than he wanted to let go of. So he kind of was trying to keep hold of it, and I think it just screwed up his whole head regardless.
But was she controlling them as a puppet master?
I don't know. I don't think so, because they just recently resurrected her in the Hellions book and stuff. So I don't think they'll go that route. But it'll be interesting to see. I will say, but since we're talking about her and talking about that was my second favorite. I got to admit, the Avengers, X-Men, Eternals, Judgment Day stuff. That one
That
caught
was
my
cool.
attention a lot because while I'm not a huge fan of where the X-Men are right now, the resurrections and the Krakoa and stuff, this is actually a pretty good story. If you wanted to take them backwards to what they used to be, or to try and say, okay, let's just do something different, because we brought in all these groups. We've tried to put on screen Inhumans and Eternals, and we've kind of failed because they're really not X-Men, and people just want to see the X-Men. This was our
Yeah,
X-Men light groups. So now they're saying, okay, what's this deal about the Eternals and dealing with the X-Men and getting into a fight with them? And everything they see is excess deviation, which they're programmed as Eternals is in their genetic makeup to kill deviance and especially excess deviation. So they're starting. To me, this is pretty interesting because for a long time, mutants, yes, were deviations of the humans, but they never saw them as excess deviation until they started being able to resurrect themselves. Now they're excess deviation because they've gone past where they should be.
And this will probably do a fine job of like what you were saying is making people maybe go back and watch Eternals where they hadn't watched it before and relate to them a little more. I really like the throwback to Odin and the Avengers BC or whatever it is. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
And that actually got
the hive mind monkeys and everything. That was pretty cool.
And if you're interested in that stuff from the Avengers 1 million BC, that actually was I just did my May pre-order of books, which come out in July. They are kicking off an Avengers 1 million BC book to kind of delve into those origins more. First issue hits July.
Okay, that's pretty cool. The one that's kind of struck me a little odd was the Blade Bloodline crammed in the middle of this.
Yeah, that was kind of a weird placement, but I kind of want to know more about it because that's supposed to be his daughter or whatever. But
yeah, it's not that it didn't interest to me. It was just like you had all this with the Eternals and the XMen.
Yeah, it just came out of nowhere.
And then that's like in the middle. She's battling some shit with a GameCube controller, not even a real, you know. This looks like, well, no, it's kind of PlayStation, I guess. But you know, she does that in the middle. Then you go right back into XMen, you know, with and a pretty horrific tale there, you know. The scene where Captain America's shield gets wrapped around his head, that is like, ooh.
Yeah.
It's brutal.
It makes you realize, though, that story could have been so much more when they did that, and they just kind of, we really don't want to fight because we're not really enemies, but if they really were, that could be pretty rough.
Yeah, it could go really bad on both sides. The one panel I didn't really agree with, and I would call bullshit, is the Captain Marvel just easy snapping Rogue's neck.
Yeah,
I'm willing to debate that one to a long death.
Yeah, they're just trying to push the Captain Marvel character more to me. And could she win in a prolonged fight against Rogue? Probably eventually, but that quickly, no.
What would you say? I mean, just glancing at what you did get to see, at what Marvel had to offer versus what DC had to offer out of the two big publishers. Did Marvel not look to have the far better showing?
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. Looking through the Dark Crisis, all it is trying to build up to this whole changing of the guard, next generation that they're trying to push, which they've already done in the 90s and it already failed. And they said, "Hey, we failed. Bring everybody back." Now you're doing it again. I'm not. And here's my problem with it: is you look through it, and then you look through even the Death of Justice League book that they just did. And I haven't read it yet, but you take your main heroes and you have them killed off to start this Dark Crisis because they're fighting all the major bad guys, right? Necron's being controlled by the darkness. Dark side is, they're probably going to lose at some point.
Yeah.
But you killed off your main characters, but then you didn't even point out. And I'm not dissing him because I like John Stewart, but if you were going to do that and say, well, let's remove the old guard generation, why would you have not kept John Stewart and killed off Hal Jordan because he's much older?
Well, because Hal's death, you fought so hard to bring him back 20 years ago, which is crazy now to say that was 20 years ago they brought him back, but after being dead or whatnot. But I don't really. I know DC's publishing company. They're saying they're wanting to get to a less convoluted style and a more dedicated. But what I'm seeing right there, it's not saying it, and I hope that their future that they want to stick with is not all John Kent and this new generation of heroes because
and I have no problem with having that new generation in books because I buy the Superman Son of Kal-El book, but I buy it to read him there because I still want to see Clark in action.
I want him as a separate character. I still want Clark Kent. I still want Bruce Wayne. If you
I still want my legacies.
Yes, I mean I'm willing to buy a John Stewart book. However, I don't want the rest of the Green Lantern Corps killed off. I don't want Hal killed again unless he's going to become Parallax, which was badass. Now, if you want to give me a book with Parallax, Asbat, and Cyborg Superman, I'll read it all day, especially if Dan Jurgens draws it. But
I mean, I'm fine with having that stuff, but you don't have to kill off your old guard just to bring in a new guard.
No.
They can both exist at the same time.
That was my thing when they first brought Miles Morales on, and I was a huge Miles Morales fan. I actually loved Bendis's run on that there. You didn't have to kill Peter Parker off to do it. Did it mean a lot when he died the way he died? Yes. And it made it even cooler when he finally come back. But you didn't have to kill him to introduce him, because it's a very interesting concept. Why wouldn't Norman Osborn have more than one spider? I mean,
yeah, especially
in the Ultimate Universe where it was tested upon purposely as opposed to, just accidentally falling in the 60s, but
right.
So you didn't have to kill off one for the other. And I think sometimes the publishers lose sight of that and think, well, we just take their toy away, they'll accept this new one. No, they rebel at that point. Give us a choice.
That's what it feels like with the Dark Crisis stuff, DC. Because if I look over at Marvel, and yes, Marvel's terrible about ending the title and rebooting the title, but it still be the same people. But what they're doing right now with Captain America, you've got 2 Captain America books. One's got Sam Wilson in it as Captain America, one's got Steve Rogers. They can both exist at the same time, eventually cross over with each other if they need to, but exist separately as well. I don't need to have every book have the same character just because it's a Captain America book and there's 2 of them, so it's got to be the same one in each one. I prefer some characters over others. I prefer Hal Jordan over John Stewart. But if you're going to give me a Hal Jordan book, like a few years ago when you had Green Lantern, and it was Simon Baz and Jessica Cruz were the main characters. And then you had Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps, and it was Hal, John, Kyle, and Guy.
Well, you had a choice between them at that point, and I liked the Baz and Cruz storyline. Yeah, that was actually very interesting. Like how she had somehow stumbled into being a Green Lantern, and she was more fearful than any damn thing. And then he was persecuted. I mean, it was a great story. I mean, it was very interesting.
And I like seeing their own stuff.
Yes. You had new characters that were interesting. They wasn't made to be diverse just to be diverse. It was how the story unfolded, which is always great when you see it just organically go. But you don't have to show the others in the damn dirt to do it.
And that's my problem with some of that. And I like the character from Far Sector and the new Green Lantern. They got that Jo Mullein or however you're supposed to say her last name. She's not a bad character, but when you read the Green Lantern comic that just ended at like issue 13 or whatever it was, half the story was about John because he was off in some other sector of space. The other half was where the Guardians and the battery had been destroyed and everybody lost their power rings except for her and Hal, because Hal's was made from his own willpower and hers was made differently. So, but at some point, near the end of that story, this rogue Guardian tries to wipe out everybody and just kill all life, and she's the one leading the charge, even though Hal's there. And I'm like, why? Yeah, they both got a ring. Hers is made differently, so hers is still working, but he made his own out of his own willpower. But you're going to tell me that she's the better Green Lantern?
No.
She's the one you're going to stick in the Justice League next?
That's what made him special. He was the only Green Lantern to forge his ring from his own willpower.
Exactly.
That's what made him so much the greatest Green Lantern, so to speak.
And if you're not going to pull John, because if you're not going to pull John into the JLA or Guy or Kyle, then it needs to be Simon or Jessica. She's this new character's so new, but she's going to be in the next Justice League title as their Green Lantern. I'm like, maybe as a training thing, but they're saying no, she's an integral character to it. She's going to be like one of their best characters. I was like, how? How is she any better than any of the characters you've had?
You're what 5-6 years in the Jessica at this point.
Yeah.
So why would you not continue to build upon her and her legacy? I think she's a damn Sinestro Lantern now, correct?
She was in the current Green Lantern book because the power rings were destroyed.
I've seen some art recently.
All the green rings and the battery and stuff were destroyed, but now in the Death of the Justice League, all the promotional art for that, and even in Dark Crisis, she's back in her Green Lantern uniform. So, and I've got this Green Lantern run just ended at like issue 13. And I think they bring everything back, like the power battery and everybody else's rings back at the end of it, but I haven't read it yet. I'm like 2 issues behind. I'm on number 12, so I haven't finished it off to see how that happens. So I can't really speak to it, but I'm pretty sure they all get their rings back.
Either way, the DC had a pretty poor showing because they had Dark Crisis, they had the Super Animals book.
And I get that for kids.
With
so
Crypto.
And they got a movie coming out for that.
And then they had the diversity book I spoke about earlier, the galaxy the prettiest star. And for those that are interested, the artwork's not bad at it. The story wasn't terrible. It's just, it felt, they just screamed transgender to scream transgender.
I will say though, out of what I grabbed, the Valiant book was the most disappointing, and I like Valiant, and I love the artwork of this.
Shit.
No, this is new stories for new books that are coming out, but it's like, well, I guess it's reprinted from the new books that are coming. So it's like little previews of each book that they've got coming, but they made the preview so short, and I'm like, whoa, I got 2 pages. For Archer and Armstrong, I got 4 pages total. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that didn't give me anything to make me want to go read Archer and Armstrong.
Okay, I say, yeah, this is not the book I was thinking of at the time. They had to reprint it. That was Red Sonja, I believe. But yeah, this is exactly what you're talking about. You literally have 2 pages for about everything. They try to cram too much in it. Why not have 2?
Yeah.
I mean, it couldn't have cost that damn much.
Like the Bloodshot little story was only like 4 to 5 pages, but you know what? That one was actually decent and kind of made you say, oh, maybe I'd pick that up and read it. The Ninjak, which is another character I like, there was nothing to his Exo Manowar. I like that character, and there was nothing more than a poster in there.
Like, why didn't exactly? Well, you have 4 pages.
Yeah, but there's no story. It's just him fighting, and it's like, okay, well, why is he fighting? What's the story? At least the Bloodshot one, it's like, hey, this guy's got all these mechanical parts. Over time, he's been, rebuilt by the army and stuff, and they kept sending him back out to war, and that's kind of what Bloodshot is. So he's like, are we the same? So you got a little bit of a dichotomy going on there.
This one character in the Book of Shadows does look pretty cool cosmetically as far as
the Shadow Man figure, yeah, that one looks cool. But there's nothing to tell you what's going on.
Yeah, there's not enough substance there
and
at all to say, hey, you know what? I want to start picking this up.
And that's what made it disappointing to me, because there was no substance to the Valiant stuff, and I like Valiant. I was like, man, you could have done so much more. You just didn't give me enough.
Those horror books, the Winchester Mystery House and the Bones Mythos. This Bones Mythos, it was creepy. Like it had some, and it was very adult horror. So if you're an adult horror fan like myself, it kind of has this insidious vibe to it. Like, I'm not quite sure what the creature did, but like it takes over the person, and it's like, it was pretty damn cool. And it was out by, I can't see who the publisher is. Image. Image put that out.
Okay.
Wow, because I didn't think Image had put much of anything out, so I stand corrected. And the other one was Source Point Press, Winchester Mystery House. It was a pretty cool Hotel California vibe deal. Like, you get in, but you can't get out. It was.
Yeah, I didn't get to see those. I saw
both of those.
I saw those on the table when I went in. I just didn't get to grab them.
Well, you know what? If I were just strolling past, I would have never picked these up. Because, I mean, just looking at them, their covers, I mean, there's nothing that just bowls you over about either one of those.
Yeah.
Well, when I got home and I started thumbing through some things, those were actually some pretty cool little interesting books there. That was like, I would be interested into picking those up occasionally.
So did you have any others? Because I'm out of ones that I could review with this. So did you have any others you wanted to touch on? Or?
Well, like I said, I have my mainstream stack that, Dark Elf Horse done a lot of those, like The Doctor and, Stranger Things. You had a Walking Dead tie-in, Red Sonja. The Black Caravan, the Electric Black. That looks really interesting. There's some great art on the inside of it. Because I'm one of those, I'm an art person. So if you can pull me in with the art, I can, even if the writing's not there, I can read it. To where you can have the best writing in the world, and if the art's not good, if you got a botchalo on your title, I don't give a damn if you're Alan Moore. I'm not reading it. Barbaric was another one that was pretty cool. It was put out by Vault. I said a lot of these are you know, independents I've never heard of. This AWA Upshot, the Primos. They were some really, really cool
I
art. This
I see a lot of those publishers like AWA in the vault and stuff when I order my books because I'm ordering on a, you know, it's an Excel spreadsheet, but it's basically pulled out of previews and I'll look back and forth. So I recognize those names like Scout Comics, Titan Comics, AWA, Vault Comics. I just
But
don't
a
buy
lot of
anything from them.
these three I just showed right now, they've done a very impressive, especially this right here. You got a full size comic here. You know, the entire thing, it wasn't just like 4 pages and then they jump to another title.
Hmm.
Oh, and I'm sorry, this Equilibrium by Comic House had a very scroll type looking character on the front, but it had some cool art on the inside. You had, you know, some very superhero-ish looking figures on the inside, so it wasn't just, you know, one character, so to speak. I mean, you got a whole universe in that one book there. And I mean, after that, you know, it's kind of, you get your typical what you expect. There's a lot of Japanese imports and
Yeah.
random odd magna and things of this nature. I'd probably give this stack I got right here a solid B, and then this over here probably be a failing grade. I'll give a little bit of credit to the Doctor Who book with the Fugitive Doctor.
Yeah,
That was a pretty
I
interesting
forgot
little
I had that.
story
We didn't
there.
talk about it. That was actually a pretty good one.
Yeah, I enjoyed that one there. Like I said, I haven't been watching Doctor Who like I used to religiously. So I didn't know who the Fugitive Doctor was until I read this, and then I went back and Googled, and it's like, oh, okay, that's pretty damn cool. You know,
That and I like the fact that it ties into it tries to create a tie into the original, the first Doctor, which is who we recognize as the
yeah,
original, right? So even though the Doctor has supposedly lived multiple regeneration cycles, because it's the first of the actual Time Lords and the only true Time Lord, truthfully, but that was a good way to tie them together. I enjoyed that little story. It was a quick read. I mean, it was a
yeah, it
short
wasn't
story,
very long.
but it tied some stuff together. And it's like, okay, this was actually enjoyable to sit there and read. It's not going to make me run out and buy Doctor Who comics, I don't think. But it was like, okay, if I had this and it was free, I'd read it.
Well, I mean, it had a good and cool story, and some pretty good art. So I mean, those combinations have pulled me in, and
Yeah,
it was enjoyable to read. I mean, would I probably spend $3 to $4 every month to go to buy Doctor Who? You'd have to be very damn consistent for me to change my thought on
yeah.
that. But you know,
Man,
for the most part, I would read it digitally. If you put it out kind of at a reduced rate digitally, I'd read that.
yeah. Same here.